Tennessee This Week from WATE's 6 on Your Side starts now.
Hello and welcome to Tennessee This Week. Good to be with you. I'm Don Hudson. We want to continue to unpack Governor Lee's State of the State address. Among other things, the governor discussed the future of nuclear energy. And when you talk about nuclear energy here in East Tennessee, your mind usually, or maybe even automatically, goes to Oak Ridge and the work to build a next-generation nuclear reactor there at the Clinch River site. Oak Ridge, of course, is in Anderson County, and Anderson County also part of the Oak Ridge corridor. So we invited Anderson County Mayor Terry Frank to join us today to talk a little bit about this and field some questions about it. I know that you're actually on the commission or the panel for nuclear energy, so you're coming from a place, I guess, of some understanding of this.
Right.
Your first reaction, and you probably already knew he was going to say it, but to the governor's remarks about getting more money, something like 90 or 92 million more dollars into attracting and helping that.
Yes. Well, the Nuclear Council, we wound down our work, so the governor put that in place with Executive Order 101, and we made some recommendations. When I watched the State of the State address, I was hopeful and optimistic that there would be some more in there for nuclear and this part of Tennessee, and he really, he poured it on.
Right. I mean,
Yes.
did he not say the $50 million investment in the Tennessee Valley Authority is a project to bring that first commercial small modular reactor to the Clinch River site, right?
Yes, yes.
Now, where are we in that process? Obviously, are we just at the thought stages, or where are we headed?
So right now with the Clinch River, the TVA project there at Clinch River, that's actually in the Roane County portion of Oak Ridge. They have had the early site permit, so now they're going for the full construction permit. So what the governor did with the Tennessee General Assembly, you saw Speaker Sexton, you saw Majority Leader Lamberth praising that. They funded a $50 million match towards an $800 million grant that they're applying for to continue to pursue this through the construction process.
Obviously, it takes money. It takes millions and millions to do something like this. Can you explain to the people who are watching the impact of something like this, of building that, as far as the impact on East Tennessee?
Well, I mean, it has the potential to bring enormous economic development, prosperity to the region. I think the primary focus is really just energy on the grid and energy security. So, you know, over this last week, we saw some really cold temperatures. We saw messaging from TVA about, you know, maybe waiting to dry your clothes or turning the thermostat down just a little bit. So the energy needs for the future, with everything from AI to just a tech future, we're seeing increased needs, increased demand. And I think the biggest part of this project is putting energy on the grid, and nuclear seems to be a solution that is bipartisan in nature, that you know, I often joke what brings together President Obama, President Biden, and President Trump, and really both parties in the United States Senate and Congress, the House of Representatives. It's nuclear. I mean, there's a lot of agreement on nuclear. Yeah,
and so we'll see where that goes. Clearly, I mean, we spend a lot of time, especially here at the TV station, talking about the Knox County growth, because it's just out of control almost, you could use that term. But Anderson County, the same thing, right? I mean, you're already booming, and something like this would even add to that.
Absolutely. We are growing. Oak Ridge, the city itself, is growing. The whole East Tennessee region, really, I mean, it's a beautiful place, great quality of life. You know, we've got great educational systems. So much is drawing people here, and this is another opportunity. You look at the history of Oak Ridge, the Manhattan Project, we have an 80-year advantage in understanding nuclear. And so now it's really time for the next step, which is development of an SMR.
Right, because clearly we have the history, as you mentioned, but now we're at that wave. This is this next wave, and we're there again. It's not like they're going, hey, we want to go to California, or we want to go here. They're coming right back to the same place, probably because, like you said, the experience. But also, it's attracting a lot of companies. There have been several big companies that have made commitments to this area because of that, right?
Absolutely. So the governor really stepped forward and has exhibited amazing national leadership on this particular issue. So the creation of the nuclear fund by the governor and Tennessee General Assembly with that initial $50 million investment, one of the first things that happened on was Type 1 fusion coming to Bull Run Steam Plant. And so just recently, over the last week, you saw news about TVA and Type 1 fusion entering into a cooperative agreement to develop fusion power. So that was one of the very first expenditures from that nuclear fund. So the governor set that up and then immediately capitalized on that. Other investments have been Orano, which is a record-setting investment in the state of Tennessee, over $5 billion for the construction of a uranium enrichment facility. So a lot is happening out of that, in addition to investments in education, whether it's UT or Tennessee Tech. There's just a lot going on there.
And what does that say about our education system, that these type of companies are willing to come here? Because you can't bring in people from all over the country solely. You have to have some folks, kind of a feeder system into it. So what does it say about our education, really from high school into college?
Well, I think for one, it says that our educational system is responsive to the needs for workforce. And I think it speaks to the quality, the partnership that elected officials have with our educational institutions yields fruit. So I think if you listen to Jean-Luc with Orano, one of the things he noted was not just the collaboration between local leaders and the state of Tennessee and federal leadership, but the workforce and the educational programs that are available to help empower people, train them to meet the needs of the nuclear industry.
For people who don't know, since you've been doing this for more than a decade, you've been involved in all this, explain to people what the Oak Ridge Corridor really is, because immediately I think people just think of Oak Ridge. But what exactly is that when people say, oh, the Oak Ridge Corridor, for people who may not understand?
Well, the corridor, United States Senator, I never know what title to give him. He's been, you know, Secretary of Education, Governor of Tennessee, United States Senator. He really identified just the geographic territory that is this science and technology. And I think science and technology that has centered around the city of Oak Ridge is more... It's very difficult for people to wrap their minds around really what that means. You think of Silicon Valley and you think computing.
Right.
And what does the science and tech around the corridor mean? I think the focus on nuclear and getting energy on the grid, on developing the next generation of nuclear power has really just put the corridor, I guess, in a phraseology that people can now wrap their minds around. This is nuclear development, and that may mean...
a lot of small businesses coming to support the bigger picture and things like that as well.
Absolutely. The supply chain, it can mean research, it can mean...
And on that subject, sorry to interrupt, but with limited time here, our congressional delegates, have they been doing the job that you would hope they do to get the money and get the attention to keep things going there?
Absolutely. It's really an unprecedented time of cooperation between local, state, and federal. There is perfect alignment on this entire effort at all levels. So the federal level has been doing an excellent job, yes.
A couple more questions. Are you concerned about President Trump, and I'll throw in Elon Musk, as they go through looking at budgets, that this could have any negative impact? You're pretty sure that they know this is something we need?
Well, I mean, I really do think they have messaged everything's on the table. So they're taking a look at absolutely everything. So will there be some programs that might move out of the way? Maybe. But the president has issued several executive orders, Don. One of them is about unleashing American energy. It includes nuclear in it. Another one is he just established on Valentine's Day the creation of an energy dominance council. looks very much like Governor Lee's Nuclear Energy Council. He has another one called Unleashing American Energy. Did I say that one already? I can't remember. There were two issued on January 20th, but they're all focused on what can we do to bring nuclear energy online. Secretary Wright has been the same way. We've got to unleash American energy, and that includes next generation nuclear.
Right. You've given us all of your insights from those positions. Just about you as being mayor. 4 terms. Will you be running again? Or
yes.
Have you already made, okay, you made that decision.
Yes, I followed my treasurer's paperwork, but I haven't done an announcement.
and real quickly, what are the things you hope to accomplish now? You've got your trail of things you've already done. What are you hoping in the next term?
Well, one of the things we've been working on just specifically with this energy issue is the creation of the Development Corporation. That's a partnership between City of Oak Ridge, Roane County, Anderson County. And we are working so well together. And again, I mentioned that with the state and federal level. I would like to continue working on that to leave, long after I'm gone, Don. That is something that those partnership bonds are still there for the folks that come behind me and the Roane County Executive and City Council and Mayor of Oak Ridge. So that's one of the key things.
Yeah. All right, Mayor, thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for sharing your insights on everything that is going on. Much more on Tennessee This Week. Our panel of pundits will join us to talk about what the mayor had to say and, of course, some other subjects when we come back. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. We just heard from Anderson County Mayor Terry Frank about the future of nuclear energy in East Tennessee. Now let's bring in our panel of pundits to weigh in on what she had to say. And joining us today, as usual for most weeks, Courtney Piper, Craig Griffith, and Michael Covington. Thank you all for being here. I guess if you first, what she had to say, if there's just any reaction to something that she hit on that you heard from her that you want to address. Nothing? Or everything. Where do I start?
If you're going to start with me, I'm going to give you benefit of my senior status on the panel.
Okay.
Here. Not in the longest serving, but in the oldest.
Okay.
I was around long enough to remember the TVA mega nuclear program in the early 70s. They came up with some power needs projections, and they based the need for 17 nuclear plants across East Tennessee. And first of all, their power projections needs were way overstated, wildly inaccurate. So they got down to having to build these nuclear reactors, and they were terribly overrun on cost. There was significant engineering problems to where they had to abandon 10 of the plants. The last one from that period came online 37 years after it was started. So it was a horrible time for the nuclear energy industry in East Tennessee. And in the meantime, the ratepayers had to pay billions of dollars in fees to cover the bonds that TVA borrowed to build those plants. So fast forward now, we're sort of in a similar node now. We're saying we're going to have tremendous energy needs. The demand is going to go up. And I certainly hope that's true in this case, because it was wrong in the 70s, and we could be on the line again for millions of dollars. I understand that the plants they're having now, these small modular reactors, are going to be less engineering intensive to build. They're going to be constructed in a factory, then brought to the site, and hopefully when you turn that switch, they'll work and not have the same engineering problems that they had in the 70s. And again,
and where do you think that will be the case with more modern technology and more research that's been done? Or
I'm not going to say that for sure. Okay. I'm not going to say it until you have all sorts of issues with nuclear reactors. They're quite dangerous. And then the one other thing that I want to address is the issue of nuclear reactor waste. We don't have a really good plan for that now. Now, when you build a reactor, the waste is stored in a water facility on site, but there's still no long-term underground storage facility for the nuclear waste generated in the United States. There was a place called Yucca Flats where they were going to build it, but it ran into significant local, state, and federal problems and is now not an option.
Right, and there's Energy Solutions out in the middle of Utah. They do a lot of that as well, but I don't know if they can handle all of it. Craig had a lot to say there. You had a lot of time to think about it. So first off, do you think that what do we need to do to get our fair share of the federal funds to make some of this happen so it's not all on Tennessee taxpayers?
Yeah, federal and state too. So I think what we have is a very unique moment in time in East Tennessee, because for the first time ever, we have Roane County, Anderson County, and the city of Oak Ridge have all come together to cooperate on economic development for the nuclear energy supply chain. They have come together and they've formed an entity called the Oak Ridge Corridor Economic Development Corporation, and they are proactively seeking out and recruiting companies in the nuclear energy supply chain for the Oak Ridge Corridor area. Those primary areas being Anderson County, Roane County, and the city of Oak Ridge, but it can go as far as up and down Pellissippi Parkway into Knox County, into Loudoun County. So this is the first time, and since I have been in business, since I have been in East Tennessee, where we have local governments that are cooperating so proactively and have that dedication to cooperation. And oftentimes that is the game changer with economic development. Companies want to have a level of confidence that the government, the geography and where they are located, they can rely and depend on each other, on those governments to help them with infrastructure needs, with workforce needs, with permitting needs. And that Oak Ridge Corridor Economic Development Corporation is going to be a game changer for East Tennessee.
And it clearly already has, Michael. We've had several companies already say, hey, we're coming, and we're coming with billions of dollars.
I don't think that there really should be a question as to where the majority of those dollars should be spent. If there's someone in Nashville, in the governor's office, that doubts where that money should be spent, then someone needs to pick up the phone and call Bill Lee and say, East Tennessee is where it is happening. You need to get your head in the game. And if he doesn't understand that, then we should just have him call Courtney, and Courtney could explain it to him.
Happy to do it.
But the bottom line is this, and speaking on behalf of just residents, citizens, this is fancy talk and very, very encouraging talk in terms of the creation of energy. But I'd like to think that the data centers that are gobbling up a lot of this power for their financial gain, I think they should bear the burden of some of this cost to expand these programs. Anyone that got a KUB bill last month understands there's a problem. When a company can indiscriminately increase your monthly bill without an explanation, there needs to be some oversight there. And I don't care how TVA feels about it, they need to have more oversight, and maybe DOGE needs to come in and spend some time with TVA and root out some of the waste there. Craig was talking about waste. We're talking about waste. We need that money back.
Yeah. Do you feel like the President Trump's administration is behind this type of approach, or is he looking at other things? Because I do know that he has made comments like drill, baby drill, and things like that. But I've also heard him talking about this as well.
Well, I heard an interview with the new Secretary of Energy, and he is big on nuclear as well. He's also big on fossil fuels. So I don't know if we're taking a step forward or a step back, but they think that they need to develop all forms of energy, all sources, which includes nuclear. So, I hope that they have some insight and funding for these projects if they want to boost nuclear in America and in East Tennessee.
Well, one point in the Secretary's first secretarial order was around advancing nuclear energy and next generation nuclear energy technology. So we know this will be a priority for the administration.
And it feels like they're going ahead and looking at every source, just because, like Michael brought up, they want people's bills. I mean, you win votes when you say, oh man, my energy bill is low.
The first point in that secretarial order is new energy additions, not subtraction. So there is a keen emphasis on unleashing American energy dominance and looking at all sources of energy.
Yeah. You think that that's how it'll work out? Because we've heard things like fusion energy, been researched for 75 years. Obviously, you have to be careful with all these type of things.
This is how America keeps its role as a global leader in innovation and doesn't cede that intellectual property to places like China. So while, yes, we have been looking at fusion energy for a long time, we are closer than we ever have been. And to just abandon those investments now would abandon American leadership in energy innovation and, quite frankly, just hand it off to another country.
And there were big breakthroughs a couple of years ago, and they're saying that this could be coming here and within basically 10 years. I mean, we're in 2025, and they're saying 2030s, we could be using that to provide some of
Well,
our...
I had friends that worked at Oak Ridge National Laboratories in the 80s and 90s, and they were working on AI.
Right.
You know, they thought AI was coming. Unfortunately for them, it came 30 years later.
It did
you know,
come.
it takes, you know, all those developments in science, they take a continuous funding source and a tremendously talented pool of engineers and scientists to make it come to fruition.
In just 30 seconds, Courtney, the impact this has on everyone, because some people watching, some of the stuff goes over your head when it gets into the details, but the economic and the impact on all of East Tennessee.
There will be thousands and thousands of jobs created here for East Tennesseans, which equals economic opportunity.
All right.
Which hopefully in a stabilized electric bill, like Michael talked about.
Yeah, that's when it gets down to most people. How much am I paying? All right, still to come on Tennessee This Week, we'll be talking about the Knox County Sheriff's Office's new 287G agreement. Don't go anywhere. We're back in 90 seconds. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. The Knox County Sheriff's Office has signed a new contract with the U.S. Marshal Service. This also involves ICE, I should say. And of course, this development comes as President Trump's nationwide illegal immigration crackdown is going on. So let's bring back our panel of pundits and talk about this particular subject, unless you want to go back to the whole discussion about nuclear power. But let's fixate on this for just a moment. Good or bad thing to sign that contract so that it pays for people you're holding and to be involved in handling some of the illegal immigrants who may have committed other crimes? Michael?
Well, I support it. I supported it initially. I think it's a great thing to get money for the local county to get money for holding these criminals for deportation. I just think everything about it is a good thing. Unfortunately, there are those who are against it, and I understand their reasoning, but 287 is a good program, and I'm glad Knox County has been involved with it since day one.
Courtney, your reaction to them signing on to this and getting more involved in it, I guess?
Well, I noticed part of the contract was if you have space available, but I wonder how that if you have space available comes into play if you're housing undocumented immigrants and then they're housed there, but then you have people that you have picked off of Knox County streets. What do you do with that immigrant population that you're housing if you need to make room for other people? So we know that our detention facilities are crowded places. It's not like space is just there for anybody who needs it or wants it. So what happens when we are housing that immigrant population, but we need those beds for people that we have picked up off the streets in Knox County?
That's a good question. I certainly don't have an answer for that. But
well, Knox County is I still think under a court order, in terms of overcrowding at the detention center, and it's my understanding that it's overcrowded on a regular basis on many days of the week. So are you going to run into a problem with this new bed holding space for ICE going to affect their overcrowded status? Right. And will I understand you're getting money per detainee for your jail, but are you going to have to spend more money in terms of fines and things like that for being overcrowded? So it's a two-edged sword, and many sheriffs across East Tennessee have built new jails based on the fact that they will house some sort of prisoner population from outside their county. Right. Be it state prisoners, be it federal prisoners, be it ICE detainees. So, it's not surprising, because it's a revenue source for them, and it's now a larger revenue source for Knox County.
Do we think there's just like some big wave? Because, and don't hold me to it, but my recollection is we reported they had 9 illegal immigrants in the Knox County jail a few days ago.
It's my understanding that it's a maximum of 103 detainees in the contract. So that's the upper limit on it. So it's not going to run 103 every day unless ICE starts bringing in detainees from other parts of the state and other counties.
Right. And maybe even other jurisdictions altogether, because we're not hearing of major arrests here. And so I guess back to the whole thing about still going after it. Seems like that at least the news coverage has died way down on this, where they're still going out and trying to find criminal illegal immigrants. Your take on where this is headed in the United States?
I said from the beginning that I supported Donald Trump putting together a fleet of aircraft to take people back to their country. I even heard some pushback that, oh no, the countries won't take them. Yeah, they said they wouldn't take them, but they are now. and they will continue to take them as long as we say take them, because we are now exercising the kind of control and leadership around the world that people have been needing and that the world has been needing. So that program is working. I'm glad that Knox County is a part of it. I hope that Donald Trump and his team rounds up every one of the millions and sends them right back where they came from.
And that is going to have to be the last comment because we're running out of time. We thank you for being here. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next week on Tennessee This Week.
The views of guests on Tennessee This Week are their own and do not represent the views of WATE 6 on your side or Nexstar Broadcasting.